Good morning. It's Tuesday, July 14th, and it finally feels like summer. Welcome. It's nice to be back here on Facebook Live. I'm Wendy Johnstone, and I'm one of the program consultants at Family Caregivers of British Columbia. And it's been a while since we've been on Facebook Live, and so just wanted to do a quick reminder of how the process works here. Family Caregivers of BC is dedicated to family caregivers across the province, and we're really happy to be able to support caregivers Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the caregiver support line, or through email or through messages on Facebook. So please send us your questions, your ideas, your feedback, what you want to hear more about. We'd love to hear from you. At Family Caregivers of BC, we take confidentiality really seriously and your privacy really seriously. Of course, this live session is public. It's open to anyone using Facebook. And so we aren't able to ensure that type of privacy through this forum. Also, we just wanted to remind everyone that the experiences here, or information shared, it's really meant to be general. It's really meant to try and hit as far-reaching audience as possible. And so sometimes, we may speak to something that you don't agree with or that you have different opinions on, and we're always happy to hear your feedback and opinions. And we do hope that you're able to find some good nuggets of information today. Just a reminder to check our website regularly, to sign up for our newsletter, social media feeds. We're really trying to provide regular updates about obviously COVID-19, new resources, new podcasts. There's an incredible amount of great work being done within the organization, and we certainly encourage you to check regularly for updates. So it's a super exciting day here at Family Caregivers of BC, in particular for myself as well, just because this project has been near and dear to my heart over the last year. We're launching our newest e-guide. It's called New to Caregiving, How to Prepare and What You Need to Know. So the link to the new e-guide is going to be listed in the comments below. Just a bit of a word of caution. We're working on reorganizing the website, and our learning resource page has a new look. That's another exciting activity we've been working on. But if you have an old link to the previous page where we keep our flipbooks or e-guides, you might want to update it. And the link will be provided below. See how I press below, as if I know what I'm doing. So new to caregiving. This topic actually came out because we've been getting we look at the information received from our call line, and we take a look at the demographics of the callers and what their needs are. And actually, a fair percentage of our callers are new caregivers. That means that they've only been caring for a year or less. That's how we categorize it. And we were hearing, similar messages from them. And really this idea of how do we provide a bit of a guide for caregivers that are new to their situation to help get them started in the right direction. So as many of us know, being a caregiver, it can either creep up on us or it can happen suddenly. So sometimes we notice that the care that we're provided for someone starts to creep up over time. We don't always even really know it. One day we're just doing a bit of grocery shopping, and the next day we're managing medications. And other times, of course, caregiving is triggered by a major health event or an acute diagnosis, a serious fall, a motor vehicle accident, a stroke, a heart attack, or cancer diagnosis. And so all of a sudden, you're thrown into this role, and it's a very, very steep learning curve. So here's what new to caregiving caregivers tell us. First of all, none of us know what we don't know. And in fact, everybody, even at Family Caregivers of BC, we are constantly learning new things. And that's through changes in the healthcare system, or feedback that we're getting from family caregivers, or personal experiences that we've gone through in our family caregiving situation. So first off, it always feels like we don't know what we don't know. And that's one of the most common feedback that we get from family caregivers. The second one is getting lots of information and trying to sort out kind of who's who in the zoo, who's on the healthcare team, what role does everyone play. This uncertainty about the types of resources or programs that exist for the person they're caring for. Sometimes it's a lot of work just to shuffle through all the rubble or all the resources or find the right person to speak to at the end of the line. They also want to learn how to speak up and support themselves as a caregiver, because as we know, although perhaps treatment and diagnosis is focused on the care recipient, the caregiver is going through this process with the caregiver. And so they need support too, because they often take on a large number of responsibility as part of that treatment or as part of that ongoing recovery. They also want to learn to support and speak up for the person they're caring for. And in some cases, of course, when that individual is having more challenges articulating their needs, or they're requiring more support, it's really valuable for the family caregiver to know some of the strategies they can use to help describe what's going on or to support the person they're caring for to be able to use their voice accordingly. So we really hope this e-guide gives you more information and support on how to prepare to care and what you need to know. Again, we're just super excited. So we're going to go through a few little parts of the e-guide. I don't want to go through it all because, well, that'll just ruin the fun. And it'll take too long anyway. But one of the things that we talk about in the flipbook is this idea that caregivers, they don't always think of themselves as a caregiver. They might see themselves a bit more in the relationship, whether they're a spouse, a parent, an adult child, a neighbor. And this is quite common when new to caregiving. There isn't quite that self-identification that actually they are a caregiver, even if they don't want to label themselves that way. But internally, that language is really important. And the reason why it's important is that if we don't identify as a caregiver, then it's going to be a lot harder for us to find the right resources and support to help us in this role. The other really important thing is, of course, caregiving doesn't come with a crystal ball. It can get very complex, and it seems to be ever-changing. And so in order for caregivers to feel better and stay healthier, being prepared and supported is really, really, an important part of that equation. So the first stages of caregiving can often feel like the most challenging because we just don't know. We're not sure about the future. We're not sure what's going to happen. We're not sure. We don't have all the information about the disease, for example. We're trying to get a diagnosis. We're not sure how it's going to impact our life in the long term, the short term. And so often that's that most challenging time in the caregiving process. And so finding the right information is one of the first steps. And this often includes getting the best possible diagnosis. And feedback that we're getting from caregivers is that this can be a challenging piece if it's not straightforward, or if there's comorbidities, or if there's some other history involved, previous injuries or illnesses, if there's lots of specialists involved in the process. And so it can take a lot of calls and tests and appointments with family doctors and specialists. But trying to get that diagnosis is really helpful, because then they know what disease you're dealing with, and then you can help yourselves by getting as much information as possible, but also knowing what kind of symptoms and effects to be looking for. Trying to figure out what supports you need. And sometimes this is trial and error. Sometimes people will try something, they'll say, oh my goodness, I really like that support group, or I really do well when I have some time to research on the internet about a particular area, or I have a peer caregiver. I have a situation right now which is really interesting. A caregiver that I had worked with for a number of years, and in fact I'm still working with her, but her mom is in long-term care. Her really good friend is now going through the exact same process where she was 6 years ago. And so they just connect, once every couple of weeks, and it allows her friend really to sort of speak to where she's at as a new caregiver, and for the more seasoned caregiver to be able to, provide validation or ideas if she's interested, and just this understanding that she knows exactly what she's going through. So figuring out what kind of supports you need as a new caregiver is really important. And those supports, as we said, they can be informational, they can be emotional, they can be access to particular services. Where possible, try to be as specific as you can be. So for example, if the person you're caring for has had a stroke, you might need more information about aphasia. You might need to really understand, what is aphasia? What type of stroke did the person have? How has it affected the brain? How might it affect their behavior? How might it affect their mobility and communication? And then what resources are available in the community, both public and private, to help support certain parts of that rehabilitation. One thing that we might discover is that the supports are not available in the community. And so sometimes it's this real, trying to think outside the box or find creative alternatives. But really trying to figure out what supports do you need and what's available in your community and how can you access them. And then another really important aspect, and this is one that changes over time, is this idea of what specific skills do we need? So depending on the diagnosis or depending on the circumstances, understanding what specific skills and support you need as a caregiver is really important. And so who can help you with proper training and skills? You can always start with your healthcare team first. Disease-specific programs are also really helpful. I know some of our mental health organizations have some great resources and skills for family caregivers. Parkinson's Society, multiple MS, Alzheimer's, they all have really good disease-specific programs. And so that's also really helpful to know that there's a circle of care that's able to round out some of that support. So different skills and information are required based on the diagnosis. So for example, caring for someone who has frontal temporal dementia or schizophrenia is very different than caring for someone who has diabetes or someone who's on dialysis. And so really understanding the specifics will help you as a caregiver and also the people who are part of that healthcare team and the care recipient. Getting your documentation organized. And so I think our last one was on contingency planning. And so this kind of fits right into that, where this idea that sometimes we need to make sure certain documentation is in place. And sometimes, it's financial, it's legal. Sometimes it's figuring out if we can get financial relief. Do we need to talk about advanced healthcare directives? Representation agreements, power of attorneys, even if it's, designating a care team and figuring out who's doing what. There's a whole wide variety of documentation. So trying to get that organized so that when things come up, you have a system in place that you can connect with so that you're not feeling like you're on your back heels. We also have plenty of resources to get you started. There'll be a link below around the financial and legal sections to move you in the right direction. The other piece around new to caregiving that we have heard, and also what the research shows us, is that being able to explain your role really well is one of the critical and ongoing parts of being a caregiver. And so patient and family-centered care is an approach to healthcare that respects the central role that caregivers play in a care recipient's life. And so increasing awareness of your role to healthcare professionals is certainly one way that you can help voice your needs. So in the flip book, for example, we talk about Margaret, who cares for her husband, and Ron finds it, really helpful to have her in the appointments, and she often still is required to remind others on the care team of what her role is. So in this situation, Ron's recovering from a stroke. He's got some mobility and some memory issues. And so she respectfully reminds or speaks to healthcare professionals to say, I understand that Ron is the patient and we are here to talk about his medical needs. However, it isn't just him going through the treatment and recovery. Both Ron and I are working together to manage his recovery plan, and it's really helpful for me to be part of the care planning. That way, it just really helps bring to light that you are a part of the care team, but also you and the care recipient are on the same page, even though maybe at times that doesn't always, come across due to, challenges in dementia or other, challenges. But it does bring forth the importance of your role. I always put in a piece about asking for help. So raise your hand if you like asking for help. Do you like asking for help? I don't. I'm trying to get better. About 30% of caregivers have unmet support needs. And what that really means is that caregivers experience higher levels of reported daily stress and lower reported mental health. And I was speaking to a caregiver about a week ago, and he just said, I just feel like I should be able to do this all myself. Why can't I do this all myself? And we had a conversation around that it's so formidable, and for him it's so caring that he does want to be able to fully care for the person, for his wife. It's also just this recognition maybe that it's really hard, and not being able to, almost for that individual, felt like a bit of a failure, like he just felt like he couldn't do it. But on a very personal level, I truly believe we are not meant to travel through life without help, whether it's giving or receiving. And this idea of learning to accept help early in a caregiving role and knowing who to ask will make it easier down the road. And one of the ideas that we try to encourage is just to try something once, or to try something for a month to see how it is, and then reevaluate. It doesn't mean that it has to be a constant. And sometimes it goes up and down. Sometimes we need a lot of help at the start until we get our feet on solid ground. And then as we develop a routine, or as we travel through a course, sometimes we need less help, or sometimes we know exactly the type of help that we need at a specific time. So that brings us to the end of our Facebook Live. We just wanted to remind you that you can call our caregiver support line. We're available Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. We can support you based on your needs of that call. We can help bring awareness into your situation. We can actually also help with caregiver coaching if you'd like a little more support with system navigation, or your personal experience is a little more complex. And you're really wanting to find some ways forward. We can help suggest ideas and resources, and we can also refer you into our virtual caregiver support group. We can help find particular resources for you on our website, or in our own database of resources. And also, just to remind you to tune into our podcast, you can find it on our website. We'll also be linking it to our e-news and on social media. And finally, I think it's really important to remind caregivers that we at Family Caregivers, we can often help in the way that all of us have been there or are currently caregiving. And it allows us to bring a perspective of compassion and understanding, and to be in a position to validate how you're feeling, and to make some suggestions that might be able to help move forward or help you find answers. So one action for consideration this month: download our new e-guide, pass it on to someone that is new to caregiving, pass it on to a friend that could be a caregiver in the short term. And also, please let us know what you think. So thank you for joining us. Happy summer. I'll look forward to seeing you soon, and have a wonderful rest of the week. Bye for now.